Hello, 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 everybody. I am Dr. Sinead Grant, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Leadership Plus with Dr. G. This is the podcast where we keep it real about what it takes to lead, grow, and inspire others to be their absolute best. And I am so delighted I get to be your host. Thank you for joining me. I am so happy you took time out just to listen in. I want to remind you to go back and I want you to like, I want you to subscribe. Leadership Plus with Dr. G is available on all of your favorite streaming platforms: Apple, iHeart, Amazon, you name it, Castbox. You go ahead. Spotify, of course. How could I forget Spotify? Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe wherever you listen. And most importantly, I want to encourage you to share the episodes with individuals that you know that could benefit from this particular message. All right. So before I dive into today's episode, I want to share a little bit of a personal story that led actually to me filming on this particular topic. Today I'm going to talk about the law of attraction, universal law. Many of you you probably have delved in. Some of you are experts at this. And in fact, the individual, and I'm going to give a shout out to Daruga. If you don't know who Daruga is, look him up on YouTube, Daruga Music. I have to give a plug for my boy because, yeah, he's got it going on, right? So check that out. I was having a conversation last night with Daruga. And just to give you some context, Daruga lives and exists in this space, right, where he believes in, the universal law. He believes in energy and frequency. It is who he is at his heart. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not necessarily my world. So I'm kind of delving in a little bit today into something that is really not my expertise. So please don't take this as any Dr. Grant ain't coming to you with no expert knowledge or advice on universal law. It's not my thing, but it certainly was his thing. And as we were talking last night, just catching up, we were just vibing, as people would say, right? It got me to thinking about how universal law really relates to the space of leadership, right? When we talk leadership, that's my thing. So that's where I want to go with this. And today's episode, like I said, is titled The Law of Attraction. It is not magic, but instead it's management. All right? Did you get that? The law of attraction, universal law. It's not magic, but instead it is management. So before we dive in, I like to remind you, I always say it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? So go ahead and get your coffee, get your tea, or whatever it is that fuels your greatness, and come on back and let's talk a little bit about this. All right? Okay, so let's go. Now, for those who just need some basic definition, right? I'm going to offer one. Universal law refers basically to a set of universal rules or principles that govern the entire universe and essentially all that exists within the universe. They are thought to be immutable. In other words, they don't change. It applies in all aspects, in all contexts, in all geographic location, no matter what, across the universe. And this is, it happens and exists regardless of human belief, for example, right? Or human awareness. You're not even aware, but it's here, it's happening. You're going about your life. And some people may call these other things, but I'm going to stick with this term today in honor of Daruga, probably, right? And the thing about it is, universal laws, one, are said to be governing. In other words, they dictate how energy, how matter, how consciousness operate, how frequency flows, whether between human, inanimate, and animate objects is really what it is. And as I mentioned before, they apply regardless of location. A very basic example, because one of the principles is all about cause and effect. In other words, to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I'm going to use that simple one because most of us have heard that, lived it, whether in the context of universal law or even in physics, right? If you've taken a physics class, equal and opposite reaction, right? Cause and effect. So that's kind of what it is. You put what you put in, you're going to get what you get out. And they're believed essentially to govern all aspects of reality, and are often the framework within which we understand not only the universe, but the context within which we as human beings grow, how we thrive, what dictates our opportunities, and how we, like I said, how we grow and thrive, right? For me, in the context of leadership, when you think about it, I often say, when you go into the workplace or when you're working with people, you don't leave yourself behind. You don't wake up in the mornings and leave your personal, your spiritual self behind so you can get into a workplace and work with people, deal with people. You don't. You take all that is you with you. And good or bad, sometimes that particular mode or that particular version of you is manifested in your work, right? In your leadership, in your management, in whatever you do. It comes out because, we can't separate. So in the context of leadership, as leaders, when we step into a space, I'm being reminded that when I think about universal law and leaders just in general, I think about the fact that how we lead is also very much tied to how we live. Does that make sense? How we lead is very much tied to how we live. And a lot of times as leaders, we're so busy chasing after outcomes, KPIs and results, that sometimes we forget to check in on our frequency or energy, right? That thing that drives us even outside of the workplace. That thing that makes us wake up in the morning, and just know that life is good or not, right? It's important that our frequency is right if we are going to lead correctly as well. Does that make sense? So I want to start there. And I want to remind us that as I'm thinking about all of this, one of the things that come to mind for me is that whether in work or play, when we talk about the law of attraction, cause and effect, right? To put in and get out of it, we don't always attract the things that we want, right? That's not enough. It's not enough to just want them, to attract them. But there's something that, based on my conversation last night, that jumped out at me. What happens is that what we attract are the things that we are in alignment with. Because you can want something and not be aligned. Can you see the difference? You can want it, but you haven't done anything to put yourself in a position or align yourself to be the recipient of what the universe has to offer, right? In my world, I may say, call it God. And I'm going to say that because, like I said earlier, this is not a topic that I'm, here to talk about in terms of my expertise, or I'm not here to dig deep into all of that. Daruga just sparked this thought for me. And truth be told, there's lots of truth to it. So I want to remind us that we don't always attract the things that we want, because sometimes things we want, we have not aligned ourselves or placed ourselves in a position where we can actually receive, right? Cause and effect. Okay, I'm keeping it real simple for us. And this part that I'm about to talk about is not the stuff. This is not what they teach you in school. When you talk about leadership and working with people, they don't talk about this stuff. They don't talk about frequency. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about your energies, right? We have lots of different words we use to describe our attitudes or beliefs or values when we get into the workplace. But I want to talk about it today in the context of, universal law and what you put into your people, what you put into your workplace, what you get back out of it. And are you putting in the right things? Are you fully aligned? Are you fully walking into that space knowing that the universe is ready to pour back into you what you are, putting out for it, releasing into it, right? Does that make sense? And leadership is not always just about the outcomes and KPIs and board meetings and metrics and reporting and decisions around hiring. There's an internal narrative that goes along with leadership. Essentially, the beliefs that you carry, they go with you. The fears that you have, they travel with you. And sometimes it's those fears that we don't face because those are the ones that are really, really, really damaging to the work we have to do as leaders. The way you subconsciously show up, even before you open your mouth. When you walk into a room, do the people in the room automatically pick up on your frequency, your energy? And in return, do you get it back? And again, that depends on whether it's good or bad, right? So you walk into a room with high energy, great frequency, and all of a sudden, oh my God, the room lights up just for you. The room lights up just because of you. And by the way, that can also happen in the contrary. You walk in and your frequency is off, your energy is off, and guess what you get back from the room? Bad energy, bad frequency, right? So this happens to all of us. You can think back to a moment in time, where you walked into a space, walked into a room. Sometimes you walk in with all the right answers, the right strategies. You walk in knowing that you are the answer to whatever it is that you're working on, but still the reception is poor. Sometimes it's because you did not walk in with that sort of expectation that you were going to win, right? It's going to be a winning day for you. You perhaps walked in with hesitance. You perhaps walked in with doubt. And you know how we have the two little angels sitting on both of our shoulders? One's going to say, yeah, I know you got this. You have the experience. You have the resume is great. But on the other hand, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't belong here. I don't fit here. This will never happen for me. Have you ever had those kinds of experiences? I know I have. So if you're going to be true with yourself today, I really want you to think about the fact that perhaps what we're attracting in that moment is what you got back, and perhaps an opportunity for your next go around, the next time around, to really change that, right? So let me ask you this. A lot of times we say we want certain things, right? Especially as leaders. You say you want to grow. You want your team to grow. You want to do things different. You want to be bold. But do your actions or your frequency, your energy reflect that? Or are you walking still in a space of fear, doubting? Are you still, not stepping into that bold space that you need to get the change that you desire to see, right? You say you want an agile team, a team that is innovative, a team that is operating at the highest level of autonomy, a team that is producing, but then you keep micromanaging the team that you have. How are you going to bring that team into existence, or even have your team grow in that way, when you have not scaled back on some of your actions, your energies that are actually impeding what you say that you want, right? You say you want peace. Let's get a little bit into, and this could be personal and professional. You want peace, but everything around you is chaos because you keep inviting chaotic situations into your space and into your life, right? Focus. We're talking about universal law, cause, effect, right? What you put in, what comes out. Universal law is not a magical thing. It's not just going to fall. Things are not going to fall into your lap, because what it says is specifically that it's about the kinds of energies, and when certain things align, when the energies and the frequencies line up in the right way, then all of a sudden things start to happen. And you've seen that happen, if not with yourself, but with other people. And sometimes if you're not a student of this philosophy, you don't even recognize it. But I know you know somebody who operates in the space, and when things happen for them, Sometimes it surprises you. It surprises me. How? Because they are aligned. They are aligned. And this energy that I'm talking about happens also in the leadership space, right? Leadership is also an energy game. It's an energy game. And I know it might sound real cliche right now, but I want you to think about you, and let's start with you. So we're going to talk about self-leadership for a minute. And it's up to you to manage your energies as if it is the most valuable currency that you have, not crypto. Your energy is the most valuable currency that you have, and you need to really be intentional in protecting it. And every time you walk into a meeting, whether you're going in to deliver a feedback or you're going in to speak on a panel or you're going in just to do a pitch for a partner, your energy as you walk into the room is broadcasting all of your signals. And people will respond to that before they even know who you are. Do you have the ability to walk into a room and before you open your mouth, somebody says, "Who's that?" Because you walk in, and there are people who are like that. They walk into a room and automatically their frequency, their energies are so positive and high and in just a good space that people will read into that and they will respond to you even before they know what your qualifications are. I want to remind you, you can't build what your energy contradicts. Be reminded of that. So if you are going in to build something and you walk in with the worst energy, the worst frequency, and all of a sudden it's not working, it's not going to work. You cannot build what your energy contradicts, because you're saying one thing out of your mouth. On paper you have something drafted, but your actions, your vibrations, your just you on a whole just contradicts everything that you say that you want to do. And we talked about that as an example of, for example, your team. You walk in, you want them to be open and honest and communicative. Are you modeling clear communication? Are you giving your team time and space and place, right, to think and contribute meaningfully in ways that also codify and help them understand that, yes, a part of that process is also taking risks, right? Are you modeling, agility in action? So when you walk into a room, it's a given, because you're so grounded in your abilities and in the way that you lead. You know that you have the ability to produce high performers, and it does happen. It does happen. Or is it the contrary, right? So you have one expectations, but your actions, nothing is aligned to really support that. I need you to know that you have to stay anchored in your own values, even when everything around you is shifting, because it is your ability to build, sort of that high performing team that will directly reflect the energy that you lead with, right? The energy you lead with is a precursor to building that high performing team that is a direct reflection of how you step into that space. And I will say this as plainly as I can, because all of us need to be reminded once in a while. When you walk into a room, remember this: you're not the thermometer, you're the thermostat, right? The room should feel what you're putting out. You are not the thermometer. You're not there to measure. You're there to be the one who's setting the temperature for that room, right? Others walk in and they come in and they can feel the temperature. If it's 60 degrees, they got you. If it's 70 degrees, they're going to get you the same way. So it depends on what you're putting out. So remember, you are not the thermometer when you walk into a room. You are the thermostat. You don't just reflect the energy that's in that room. You set it. It is your job to set it. And that's the law of attraction. It will bring you more to what your baseline is. And your baseline is not about what you post on Instagram. It's not what you have on Facebook. It's not that public perception. It's not the title that you have, right? It's not what you are saying, but it is about how you are being. It's how you carry your own truth. It's how you step into a space. And it's up to you to make sure that you are calibrated to get to that outcome. It's up to you to make sure that your energy really is tuned into what your expectations are for yourself. And it's important that exactly what you want, that you are aligned in every way, in your actions. You question yourself, ask yourself, what exactly are you aligned with? And does that alignment really support your future self, where you're trying to go, right? Clarity for us as leaders is really important. And I want you to know that your role is to define what you wish to attract, because if you cannot define it, you cannot attract it. You cannot attract it if you can't define it. The universe is not trying to read your mind. It's not trying to read your mind. But the things you do, the energy you give off, the frequency you give off should be clear. We're not talking about foggy goals or generic affirmations, right? It's not about getting every morning and repeating affirmations with nothing to go with it. Yes, you have to define it. You have to be able to articulate it. But there's just so much more to it, because the universe and your team needs also to be clear. So you have to be clear so that when you are performing, right, the energy that you're giving off, the universe, your team can really embrace that. And this comes out in some very clear, very practical ways. Sometimes we say, we want support. What does that mean? You want support in what ways? You want support in emotional, operational, strategic? What kind of supports do you need? Sometimes we say we want to grow, but where do you want to grow? Be specific. You want to grow in revenue. You want to grow in your reputation. You want to grow in your network, in your reach. Personally, sometimes you just need a break. You just need a break. But if you need a break, are you scheduling it? Are you just hoping that it appears? Are you just hoping that the break just shows up? It's not going to show up. The universe is not going to come place a break in your lap. Schedule it. Schedule it. And watch what happens. And let's be honest, many of us, we avoid clarity because clarity also means that we need to be accountable. Once you can define it and clarify it, it means that now you can actually articulate it, and you now have to hold yourself accountable for the execution. So when you define what you want, right, now you can live. This is the sweet spot about this is the sweet part about it. This is what I love about this part, right? Because once you've defined it, now you truly, if you are true to what you are trying to say, and if you believe in the universal laws, and you believe in the law of attraction, and if you believe that, then guess what? Once you've defined it and created clarity around it, then it's up to you now to live like it's actually possible. You have to live like it's possible. You wake up every morning because you're aligned and you're doing all the right things, and now you have to live like it's possible. Now you have to release everything in your life, in your space, that contradicts what you're trying to say. You have to stop entertaining the things that don't serve you well, that don't serve your goals well, that don't serve the things that you are trying to get aligned with the universe with, right? And many of us are in that situation. Now, another practical way you can do that, as you're listening to me right now, grab a notebook, grab a notepad, wherever get your phone and get into your memo pad. And I want you to write down one thing this week that you are going to stop entertaining because it doesn't serve you, it contradicts where you're trying to go. What is that one thing? And you're not doing that out of desperation. You're doing it because you are making a decision to get in alignment with what the universe has in store for you, right? You have to separate the fluff from the facts, right? The law of attraction only works if there is also the law of action. The Bible says Faith without works is dead. So for me, attraction without action is also dead. Think about it. The law of attraction, equal opposite reaction. It only works if there is action. And it's up to you. You have to be the one that put that in place, because you can talk all you want until your voice becomes hoarse. But if you are not taking the actions that are aligned, you are not attracting. Basically, all you're doing is avoiding. So you can say it, but saying it is just one thing. You have to act on it. And in acting on that, you have to be able to, we talked about define it before. For example, you want funding. Where's your plan? You want visibility. Are you showing up consistently? Are you getting into the places and the spaces with the people who can or is meaningful for your network in terms of your visibility? You say you want boldly, but have you actually looked and defined what bold looks like for you? Because that is different for everybody, right? We're all at different phases on the spectrum of boldness, let me put it that way. So you have to define that. And just remember, faith without works is dead. So attraction without action is also dead. Another power move for you. Take one aligned action a day that mirrors your desired future state. That could be one phone call. That could be one email. That could be one boundary you're creating that nobody's allowed to mess with. It could be the one walk you do every morning. Whatever that looks like for you. Take one action, one aligned action a day. And I say aligned because it has to be in alignment with the future self that you and I both know the universe is just really anxious to give you, right? And just watch things start to happen. Just watch it start to happen. Some people call it manifesting. But you can manifest. There are lots of different steps to manifesting. Manifesting is not just saying something verbally. You say it, but then you got to put the work in, right? And when you think about all of this, it really is, it takes you into a whole different space, right? And you have to really be intentional about who you're becoming, because it's not just about the outcomes. As you just grow, and I love the stories of people, and we talked about it last night too. And I sit with my nieces, one of my nieces a couple of months ago, and she said, Auntie Shernette, when I think about where I was like 3 years ago, and I said I wanted this, and here I am. But she didn't just say it. She could literally tell me all of what she did to get there. And the same conversation came up last night. So when we talk about manifesting, when we talk about aligning with the universe, we're talking about the fact that we are putting ourselves in a position and making sure that our actions are aligned to what we say we want to do, because this is not just about the verbal, it is also about the action, right? And because this vision that you're carrying, and because this vision, whether it is a vision that was handed to you, or it's something, because it's your own company, you're an entrepreneur, or you're founder of a nonprofit, wherever you are, doesn't matter. This vision that you're carrying demands a version of you that is not just in the survival mode. It's one that is really becoming. You want to be in a mode where you can see yourself and your future self and your future company or operation or organization, and you see big things. You see big things that are waiting for you, but you just have to be self-disciplined. You have to have faith. You have to trust yourself in the process, and most importantly, you got to release the things that don't serve you. Once you do the work, then you release it for the universe to pour back into you, right? So instead of obsessing over outcomes all the time, what I want you to do is focus on the alignment, right? Don't worry about where you're getting. Are you getting there? Are the outcomes there? No, worry about whether or not you have put into place all of what you need to make sure you're aligned. Instead of proving to people that you're doing this, how about you just carry your own truth. Carry your truth, because instead of waiting for something to happen, I want you to start to embody start to embody all the things that you are doing are happening because you've thought them through and you are making these a part of your process as you wait to see things just start to change, right? So take action by visualizing the most aligned version of you. I want you to be somebody who's leading with a lot of peace, a lot of clarity, a lot of certainty. And I want you to think about what would future you look like, right? Tell me, what are some of the things that future you are going to say no to or say yes to for sure, because now you just step into a space of boldness, or no because they don't serve you anymore? And what is one thing that you can do today to align your current you with your future anticipated you? And just like we said last night in my conversation with Daruga, because I'm the just do it girl. My friends know me. I should be walking around with a Nike logo on my shirt all day long. I'm the just do it girl, and I want you to just embrace a little bit of that for a minute. Just do it. Just do it, because that's the real work, right? That's the attraction. That's the alignment. And most importantly, if that's your assignment, that's your assignment. That's your assignment. Just do it. Just do it. So this week you have a little bit of homework. Think about it. What are some of the things that you need to take a hold of now? Not out of desperation. I already said that. Not out of a desperation, but out of a decision. Because these are things that does not serve, or they're not aligned to what the universe wants to bring you. And you're either going to remove them, say more yeses to them if that's the case, and then just watch it all happen because you're doing your part, right? Again, like I said, this conversation was just inspired by, and again, let me remind you, I am no expert on universal laws. Yes, I know, basics, and it's not something that I constantly accept in my own personal life. For me, my universal law is my belief in God, and it translates the same way, right? It translates the same way. My belief system, for me, I believe in just living in the space of just being grateful in all things and then putting in the work. Just do it. I'm the just do it girl. Because when you walk into that space and that conviction, it really does. Something happens. And sometimes it only takes a spark to ignite a real shift in everything you're doing. So I want you to embrace your spark and go be great. Go be great, right? That's it for today. I want to remind you, like, subscribe, share, send me a comment, right? DM me, send me a comment. If you're working through your own struggles right now, you're working through some things that you could use some help with, thought partner, reach out. I'd be happy to help you figure this out as well. I think we all do. And of course, if this episode hits home in any kind of way and you can think of somebody who could use it as well, I want you to share with them. So like, subscribe, but as I always say, most importantly, share, right? The universe depends on you to do that. Until next time, lead boldly, lead agilely, and most importantly, go lead unorthodoxly. All right? Ciao.